Medical Group, located at 3075 Washington Road in McMurray, Pennsylvania. For more information or to make an appointment, call 724-942-3002. That's 724-942-3002 for Dennis J. Corky, MD.
Good morning, everybody. Good morning, everybody, and welcome to AM Impact on Your Health. AM Impact on Your Health, where every day our goal is to have you learn at least one thing to help you live better and longer. AM Impact on Your Health, heard each and every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday from 8 to 9 o'clock. I'm Dr. Dennis Courtney, and I'm with you each and every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday from 8 to 9. AM Impact on Your Health, where each day you'll find current medical news, knowledgeable guests, fascinating health topics, and where we do encourage you to call in to join in. Today, yes, folks, we have him back. He really blew the lid off the place the last time he was here with us. I think his topic was extremely stimulating. The concepts, I think, are new in a way I've never heard them before. The book, Heal Thyself, Transform Your Life, Transform Your Health by one Dr. Pieter DeWet, MD, from down in Texas. And that book, since our last show, I did receive a copy from him. I've had a chance to mull through it. It is a fascinating read, and it really does allow you to be your own guide on how to beat disease. Now, that's a new concept. Coming from a medical doctor, you can beat all disease. We'll sort of go over these initial concepts once again right at the beginning of our interview today, and then we'll have to it and talk about the revealing concepts I think I've discovered from reading the book itself. Dr. Pieter DeWet, our guest today, right after that first break. During our conversation with Dr. DeWet today, you've got a question, you want to make a comment, that number, of course, as always, will be 412-825-6262. That's 412-825-6262. Dr. Pieter DeWet, our featured guest today. Hope you enjoyed the new Dr. Vallavoom, that gal we had on Monday. What a wonderful gal she really was. Susan Smith-Jones, Dr. Susan Smith-Jones, PhD, talking about her book, The Joy Factor, but really filling me in a way the company never did, talking about those Olbus products. I will tell you that I went to the website that she recommended. I think it's a 3 or 4 minutes of the Olbus product line at olbusmovie.com. And so if you're looking to find out a compendium of all the products that they offer and how to utilize every one of them, that little 3-minute movie will do better than any explanation from me or from Dr. Susan Smith-Jones. I highly recommend that you go to it and utilize these products. In her case, she utilizes Olbus prophylactically, when in fact, I've always used it after I had a problem. So maybe I'm doing it backwards. Anyway, Dr. Susan Smith-Jones. And by the way, after having spoken with her off air after we ended our show, she's coming back. We're going to bring her back once in January and once in February. Just to let you know, that energetic gal is going to be with us on January 6th, where she's going to be talking about stress busters, and then, as she framed it, the Valentine's Day special all the way up in February, natural ways to increase libido. Happy Valentine's Day. I think it's a great topic, and no finer person to talk about it than her. That's way up into February, but I thought you'd like to know, those of you who keep track of these things. Now, also up and coming, and it's this Friday, you don't want to miss our show here with Deborah Ray. Local gal, done real well off the Tampa, Florida ways for many years now, but has a fondness in her heart for Pittsburgh, of course, being a born and raised Western Pennsylvania gal, Greensburg she hails from. Anyway, she's going to be our guest on Friday, talking about whatever she's into and talking about her, unbeknownst to me and unbeknownst to you, marriage, which rocked us all when we first heard it, but we'll be hearing straight from Deborah on Friday. Should mention, because we're not going to be able to get them on the show as we normally do, tomorrow night up to Freedom of Choice and Cancer Therapy Group up in Butler, a switcheroo for you. Second week in December instead of the third week. It's third Thursday, you know? Well, it's second Thursday here. 2 featured speakers. It's a twofer. Phyllis Pipkin and Marilyn Becker. Marilyn's going to be talking to you about boosting your immune system. Phyllis talking about the 5 elements of healing. I hope you enjoy them, but they'll have all the supplements up there and all the book availabilities and everything that you've come to know and appreciate from that group. Always like to support them. Then on Monday, Brian Foltz is coming back. Going to be talking about his nutritional exam. In a similar way, I think I've come up with a way that we're going to have dueling competition here between Brian and Jimmy Moresic. I'll tell you more about that as things shape up. But we'll use me as an example for his nutritional exam. He did the exam on me. He came up with 7 or 8 things that he says I need. We're going to find out why he felt that way and offer the ability for you to be involved with that same kind of examination here. So that's pretty much all we need to talk about there with respect to the up and coming. And yeah, we'll let it go with that. Want to also mention the Fruit of the Spirit. You're going to be hearing that in one of the commercial spots we do. That gift set. You'll hear clearly the phone number if you wanted to order it by phone. You know, for $29, which is usually the price of just the 1 month supply of Fruit of the Spirit. The $29 this month gets you a gift set with a measuring glass. That's what they call it. I call it a shot glass. A measuring glass. The book called Harmony, written by Deborah, as well as 2 other physicians she now works with, and a book describing the substance itself, the Fruit of the Spirit product, and all nicely wrapped and all able to be sent off to your loved ones and people you care about. If you want to do it online, this does not appear on the spot. That way to dial that up is www.drcourtney.fruitspirit.com. That's Dr. Courtney, D-R, without the period there, D-R, Courtney, C-O-U-R-T-N-E-Y, .fruitspirit.com. Get it via phone, get it via online, techie style. Just get it. And for this month alone, it's a way to get other people involved with Fruit of the Spirit that you care about deeply. That about rounds that out. Let's do this. I'm really anxious to get to our guest today. You should be too. If you heard him before, I know you are. If you haven't, boy, hang in on this one because I believe you're going to be given some information, powerful information. I love it when it comes from a fellow colleague, a medical doctor, because on the one hand you think, oh, this is way out, but not so way out. We'll give him a chance to prove it to you today. Heal thyself, transform your life, transform your health, and beat any disease. So says Dr. DeWitt. Now let me go hunt him down, find him. We'll be back in just a moment with our guest today. Be right back.
Well, instruction just doesn't quite produce the result that you are looking for. If this confusion sounds familiar to you, give us a call at the Center for Complementary Health, where we'll make some sense of the confusion based on a blending of traditional and alternative medicine that we've been perfecting over the last 7 years. We offer metabolic nutrition testing, immune system repair, natural hormone replacement therapy, chelation therapy, cutting-edge allergy correction, and a host of other safe and effective alternative therapies.
Dennis J. Courtney, M.D., is located at 3075 Washington Road in McMurray. Phone 704-942-3002.
Friends and loved ones, gifts of health with a very special gift from Fruit of the Spirit. Fruit of the Spirit combines sportsman and whole fruits with energizing minerals to give you great tasting, antioxidant-rich liquid nutrition with more health benefits than any other product of its kind. Take advantage of a special offer this Christmas. We will send a beautiful gift pack with a bottle of Fruit of the Spirit, portion glass, book, and brochure to each name on your shopping list for just $29. That's a bottle of Fruit of the Spirit, portion glass, book, and brochure to each name on your shopping list for just $29.
Fruit of the Spirit gift pack is a $57 value. This Christmas season is yours for just $29. Shipping and handling not included. Call 1-800-793-8714 with your shopping list, and Fruit of the Spirit will take care of the rest. Call now. That's 1-800-793-8714.
Hey, good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome back once again to AM Impact on Your Health. AM Impact on Your Health, of course, heard each and every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday from 8 to 9 o'clock. We're here on a Wednesday version of the show with a repeat guest. I'll tell you one that I believe we're going to continue to repeat, the message being so strong. Hopefully, you're able to garnish from this. As I have seen, this is one of the most powerful guests we've ever had on our show because of the message involved here. He's written a book, Heal Thyself, Transform Your Life, Transform Your Health. We had the opportunity to speak to Dr. Pieter DeWitt from his Texas location back on November 24th, when he first introduced his book and his concept. It is a powerful concept where you literally, he says, can beat any disease, and that's always a refreshing message for our listeners here. We always like to bring you the powerful messages when they are available. This certainly is one of those. We're back now with part 2 of our interview with Dr. DeWitt. Who knows how many parts of this will finally unveil themselves as time moves on, but we got him today. We're going to say good morning. I think he should be connected up with us now. Good morning and welcome back, Dr. Pieter DeWitt. Peter, you with us? Hello, Pieter DeWitt. Peter wanted to be able to call up the station, Bill, and okay, I think we got him now. Peter, you with us?
Yeah, I am. Sorry, for some reason the number that I dialed went through to Pittsburgh University.
Oh, well, that would have been an interesting discussion. I'm glad you finally got routed to the right place. I'm glad you're with us, Peter, and I'm glad you're in a comfortable setting. You got your own headphones on now, and all I'll ask you to do, because they tell me I scream, and you're a little more mild-mannered than I, so I blast them out, and you got to come up to my level, because I can't turn it down. Could you turn it up just a bit?
Is this good enough?
Just want you to speak into your mic so we can all hear you clearly, okay?
Yeah, I'm speaking right into my mic. Just let me know if that's good.
Okay, we'll find out. Believe you me, people will be rebelling if in fact it's not the case. Let's reintroduce you to the Pittsburgh listening audience. So many of our listeners are standard ones. They keep on listening to each and every show we do. But we always have some new folks on board with us now. When we met last, there were some concepts that came to the fore. And one quote, by the way, thank you for sending a copy of your book to me. I really appreciate it. But a quote that surfaced last time, literally from the first page of the introduction of your book, pretty much sets the tone for a new way of looking at health. Talking about disease, and you say Dr. Claude Sabat made this quote. Disease, he said, is the brain's best solution to keep the person alive as long as possible. Therefore, disease is a survival program. No finer way to start this discussion today than plowing into the meaning behind that, because it sets the tone for the message, the overall message that you bring now in your book.
To me, that was an epiphany to discover Dr. Sabat's work and the whole concept brought forth by Dr. Reiki Hammer. Dr. Hammer was actually Dr. Sabat's teacher, and made this extraordinary discovery now about 30 years ago. And what was discovered is that Dr. Hammer first made this discovery with cancer, that every cancer patient had an extraordinary trauma of some kind, usually emotional trauma, shortly before the cancer was diagnosed. And he studied other illnesses and found that the same thing applied to other illnesses. So it started crystallizing for Dr. Hammer that it seemed like when people got sick and
always was very specific emotions, very specific context that programmed for each specific illness. And Dr. Sabah laid out some additional laws. Dr. Homer originally came up with 5 specific laws that helped explain how all of this works. And then Dr. Sabah expanded on that and added about 19 additional laws that we follow in the arena of recall healing. That's what it's called now in America, this whole study of this subject, because it explains a little bit better than some of the other terms that have been used, like German new medicine, which makes it sound like something from Germany, but it doesn't tell you what it is. And total biology is the term used by Dr. Sabah, also kind of nondescript. It sounds like a high school biology course. So does that make sense?
Well, it does to the extent that that the quote is such a when you look into that, there's such a powerful statement behind such a quote as that. To then see that you've taken it on this American side of it and ran with that, and now come to us with this book, Recall Healing, Heal Thyself, Transform Your Life, Transform Your Health. You call the entire concept now Recall Healing. And so here's the byline that we opened up with last time, and I believe it does set a powerful tone, which is you can literally beat every disease out there. Is that a fair summation of how you look at recall healing?
Yeah, I think that's a fair summation. Of course, there's with every disease, with every person, there is a point of no return. So if you imagine somebody that has gotten extremely ill, like for instance with cancer, if it's metastatic, it's all over the body. It has destroyed a lot of the key structures in the body. Not only does it destroy the body, but it also, has implications in terms of what the mind is capable of. And in recall healing, we are operating from the understanding that, somebody can heal when they have not crossed that precipice. So that, if they still have the emotional, mental energy to heal, if they still have a strong desire to live, a commitment to living, then anything is possible. But sometimes people get emotionally exhausted. They get exhausted with life, and they've pretty much completed what they came to do or accomplish, and they are happy to go. Sometimes they don't fully understand that at a conscious level, but at a subconscious level, that's how it plays out.
Well, a statement that might be even more fair would be certainly in a preventative sense, you can prevent these diseases, understanding full well that if you had a raging cancer with metastatic spread everywhere, pretty tough to get that one back when you've gone so far down the road. But at least before any of the diseases are present, it's possible to win so as not to develop the disease to begin with. Would that be a fair statement?
Absolutely. This is the ultimate form of prevention, because if you know what the programs are for every cancer, for every disease, it makes it possible to nip it in the bud even before the pathology actually manifests in full. So again, if we understand that the statement that you made right at the beginning, or quoted from the book, the disease is the brain's best solution to keep the person alive as long as possible. Therefore, disease is a survival program. That statement, says so much, because what it's saying is that when the brain is threatened with overwhelm, and we can get more specific with specific examples, but the bottom line is the brain is set up so that it protects the human being, consistently from overwhelm. Imagine if you are in a dire situation. If, for instance, at 5 years old, if you're being beaten to a pulp by a parent that doesn't have control, of themselves, what the brain does is it, in that moment of trauma, will protect itself from overwhelm, from blowing out the circuitry in the brain itself by downloading to a small part of the brain, and then also downloading to that part of the body that is controlled by that part of the brain that is downloaded to.
Fantastic.
So,
what a concept.
You're more than happy to use an example or two of exactly how that happens.
Well, why don't you? Because that little nifty package there explains so much that it deserves further explanation. Do you understand what I'm saying here? You can't just gloss over that. Why don't you do just that? It's a powerful concept, the way how diseases actually become manifested, where the brain rescues itself, and then you say downloads it from the brain, because the brain is doing the rescuing, to an organ or a body part or a zip code somewhere. Fair enough?
Yeah, absolutely. So, let's use an example of one of my patients about that I saw a few years back that developed breast cancer. And this was in the aftermath of two major traumas that she had. It's very interesting that it's, in her particular case, it took two traumas for the disease to manifest. But I'll very quickly explain what happened for her. She actually was an employee of mine to one of my nursing staff. But she had a son that was involved in a motor vehicle accident. And it was pretty much, was an awful wreck. His car was literally destroyed to the point where it looked almost like a pancake. Still don't know how he made it happen. It's an extraordinary miracle. But because he was flattened by a truck, he was riding a Honda Accord, and turned into the oncoming truck and basically ran right over him. But he got out of that car. They got him out to a hospital. But for 14 days, he was right between life and death. So they didn't think he would make it. The physicians kept telling Mom, sorry, we don't think he's going to make it to the morning. And every night they would say the same thing. But lo and behold, he made it through 14 days. And on the 14th day, they told her that, guess what? He's going to make it. I mean, he finally turned the corner. They felt comfortable enough to tell her that he was going to make it. But you can imagine a mother standing at the bedside waiting for her son, her 17-year-old son, to die. Now, when at day 14, when she got the good news, she went back home. Of course, she stayed at his bedside most of the time. Even after that, she saw him through rehabilitation hospital. It took him 6 months before he was released from that hospital. But lo and behold, within a year after that, he was almost completely normal. A little bit of a speech impediment, but otherwise almost completely normal. So, one of those miracles that we see, quite often. But she remembers now that very soon after that 14th day, when they told her that he was going to make it, she noticed something discomfort in her left breast. And soon after that, she felt a little knot in her breast as well. But she was so consumed with taking care of her son and being there for him that she never went to the doctor. She never had a mammogram. She wasn't very serious about mammograms either. But about 5 years later, she had another drama in which her daughter, who was about 3 years younger than the brother, one day got very upset with Mom because Mom was interfering in her business. At least that's what she felt. And she stormed off. She told her mother, that she would never see her again. Left the home, moved to the opposite side of the country, but never let her mom know that she was okay. So, her mom fought for the daughter's life. The daughter eventually came back about 18 months later. This drama ended when the daughter appeared again at the front door of her mom's house and said, Mom, I'm sorry. I got very mad at you and frustrated, but, and I just have to kind of find myself. I'm back. I'm feeling better. Please forgive me. And so they embraced, they had tears. But lo and behold, 2 weeks later, Mom noticed again a little bit of soreness in the left breast. This time a little bit of a knot again, just like she did before. But this time she had all the time in the world to go for a mammogram. She had a happening, and lo and behold, there was a little knot in her breast. She had that biopsy and it was cancer. But see, working with me, I had just started on my track with recall healing and learning about germanic medicine and all this stuff. So we had 3 or 4 sessions in which we tried to figure out what the root was. Finally figured out exactly what had happened for her. That she had, basically a severe nesting conflict, is what we call it in breast cancer. A big nesting drama with one of her little chicks injured, and then the second chick later on disappearing into thin air to come back, 6 months later. So she realized, we both realized what had happened. We did all the work to clear that trauma, to come to peace about it, and she finally felt comfortable to, she was convinced that the tumor would disappear, and so it did. About 6 weeks later, we sent for another mammogram, sonogram, and there was no signs of anything in the breast. She had decided that she would give it 6 weeks to see if she could clear this problem before she did anything else. So this is an example, one of the conflicts that programs for a disease, a specific disease like breast cancer. I would be happy to.
Well, I'll tell you, that example right there probably lays out the construct for any discussion that comes up afterwards, because to have those vivid examples of conflict, which is the other part of the message that you brought to us last time that we can now introduce, which is all disease results from stresses or conflicts that have to be manifested somehow. Your brain protects you from these conflicts by taking it and downloading it, as you say. If I'm saying this wrong, please tell me. But you then, your brain resolves this by downloading these negative messages to part of your body where you manifest the disease. But the conflict and the stress was the initiator of all disease. Is that a correct statement?
Yeah, that's pretty close. So the brain, when threatened with overwhelm, will download to a small part of itself, and that part which is congruent with the nature of the conflict. So as we said, with breast cancer, it's a conflict of the next. With something like coronary artery disease, a heart attack, it is a conflict of lost territory. So, like Kenneth Lay in Enron, I didn't know if I used that example last time, but, when he was shamed, when his company was taken away from him, he had a massive, overwhelming stress, that went on for 18 months before he was found guilty. Very soon after he was found guilty, he actually went on vacation, knew that he was going to go to a country club jail, but he had a massive heart attack, and he died. And what we know about that story is that it actually indicates another facet of this, which is that a lot of catastrophic illnesses happen during the healing phase of the conflict. So when the conflict is lifting, when somebody goes through dire straits, like the woman that I talked about with the breast cancer, it's actually her disease also happened during the healing phase. And we know from her biopsy that she had a ductal carcinoma, so it was in the duct.
Intraductal.
If it was in the body of the breast, what we call adenocarcinoma, it would have been, during the conflict phase, and then the conflict would have been a little bit different in nature, but still a nascent conflict. So it is absolutely fascinating how it all comes together. Now, there's another concept that also comes in, and that's the 5 levels of healing. In my book, I talk about the 5 levels of healing. And this is where you start understanding, Dennis, how the conflict merges with the toxin or the infectious agent or other aspects of lifestyle health. Because, there's certainly no disputing that lifestyle plays a major role, that, what we put into our bodies, what we ingest in terms of toxicity, also comes into play. So that's where, the 5 levels of healing come in. So if you want me to, I can quickly summarize that concept, for our audience.
Well, you do such a nice job. I don't know if this is all original work. Wow, I don't know how you have time to do anything else. I'm guessing that you're benefiting from those who've gone before you, the German and the Frenchman and so forth. But lists. You are really into. I love lists, but I've never found lists as many places as I've found it in your book. Somebody's documented this extremely well. You talk about 2 phases of a disease, 5 levels of healing, 18. I mean, it's always a very finite number, which is interesting to me when disease is such an has heretofore been such an unspecified entity, to see how finite you actually can make it. So why don't you tell us about the 5 levels of healing? Go right ahead, please.
Right. This, by the way, this concept comes all the way from India, 5,000 years ago. So it was, laid out even back then. So a lot of the primitive cultures had an understanding, and still have an understanding, that we're more than just a physical body. Of course, even in our Judeo-Christian, background, we believe in spirit, mind, body. So there's concepts even in Western society that helps us to understand a little bit more about this. But the 5 levels of healing was also crystallized by another physician, another mentor of mine, Dr. Pieter, who's one of my heroes.
Who I know very well, by the way. We know Dr. Dietrich Klinghardt. Sure.
Yeah. So he inspired me to write that chapter, the 5 levels of healing. But how Dr. Klinghardt describes it is that we have 5 bodies. If you think of a human being, you can think of us almost like a target, a target zone. So if you look at a target with a bullet core in the middle and then rings around it, that represents, kind of graphically how we think of the body. So the body is in the center. Instead of the soul being in the body or the mind being in the brain, we think of the body being in the center, and then around that, the next layer is what we call the energy body that surrounds the physical body, and then around that is the mental body that surrounds the energy body, and then surrounding that is what's called the intuitive body, and then on the outer perimeter is what we call the spirit body or a spiritual body. So let's start from the physical body first. When we talk about the physical body, we're talking about the domain that is most utilized in conventional medicine. So for instance, when people take drugs, they're basically, it's specifically intervening in this physical body. So they're taking chemicals, and when we do structural work, when we do physical therapy, when we do surgery, that's all level 1 stuff. So you can also understand why we often fail when we treat this at that level, because we're really not treating the disease at the level of entry.
Good point.
And that's a critical point to understand, because in the 5 levels of healing, if you don't treat a disease at the level of entry, you're basically chasing your tail. You're having to keep taking drugs. When we treat chronic illness in conventional medicine, as you know, we're always chasing our tails. As a matter of fact, we're creating more disease as we deplete the defense mechanisms, the body's ability to detox itself, for example. Now, the energy body, we're going into a physiology and physics, and that's where we look at, for instance, when we look at conventional medicine again, this is a level where we do a lot of our workups. So when you do an MRI or an EKG or an EEG, that's all level 2 stuff. You're looking at the energy body, because we know, for instance, that the heart and the nervous system and all the electromagnetics associated with it, every living cell is surrounded by an electromagnetic field. So that's what we're evaluating when we're doing level 2 stuff. But unfortunately, in conventional medicine, very rarely do we see any therapeutics done at that level, whereas in alternative medicine, we see that all the time. With acupuncture, for example, with what's called neural therapy, which is a German technique of resetting ganglia that control the autonomic nervous system in the body, in every organ. So when we have an organ dysfunction, or when we have somebody with a bad back or a sore joint, we reset that autonomic nervous system, for example, with a treatment like segment therapy or neural therapy, and it resets that whole area, and the body starts working better. But still, that's usually not the level of entry either. Although we have insults on the body, for instance, through electromagnetic field interference, that can affect the body negatively at that level. Now, level 3 is the mental body, and that's where recall healing comes in. So when we think of the mental body, we're thinking psychology, and we're thinking homeopathy. So so when we work on level 3, a lot more of the time we're looking at the source of health problems. As I was explaining with, for instance, the story of the nurse that worked for me that developed breast cancer, or Kenneth Lay, when he had his fatal heart attack after the Enron scandal. That's all level 3 stuff that played out in the physical body. But even there, we're talking about some of the remnants from level 4 as well that is present. For instance, the intuitive body, we're thinking of genealogy. So, Dennis, this is what's so fascinating. Now, we used to think that everything was transmitted, but most disease was created at the genetic level. At least in conventional medicine, that's the common story, that, people get cancer because they have bad genes, and they get fat because they have bad genes. But that's not true. When we think of the intuitive body, we realize that most things that come in genetically are actually epigenetics. It's epigenetic transfer based on conflicts that are carried within the family, so the family tree. So when somebody develops cancer, for instance, you have 4 or 5 members of the family that develop breast cancer, then we start looking at the epigenetics. We start looking at the genealogical tree to see, what conflicts of the nest were playing out in past generations, and how that's playing out now, in this current generation. And
That's a fascinating concept there, where the conflict gets passed down, as opposed to a programmed outcome that moves in families that strictly follows DNA. The conflict actually can follow this pattern too.
Yeah, and there's authors like Bruce Lipton. Bruce Lipton wrote a book, The Biology of Belief. I don't know if you're familiar with that book, but it's an extraordinary explanation of this epigenetic field and how things play out. Another author that I love is Lynn McTaggart. She wrote a book called The Field that explains quantum physics, for everyday people, people with that are not so smart like myself, so we can understand quantum physics. And that helps to explain how this level 4 works, because level 4 is the level of quantum physics, and the level of intuition. A lot of people know that they have something called intuition, but they don't know how it works. They don't know why it works. A lot of people have clairvoyance. A lot of people have telepathy. They can literally almost read other people's thoughts. By the way, when you understand recall healing, you literally become telepathic. You become clairvoyant in a way, because you're able to read people's bodies. If somebody comes in with breast cancer, or they come in with heart disease or obesity, or whatever you want to think of, you can literally figure out before they even hit the door what their potential conflicts are that are programming for the disease. And you can confront that on day 1, at the very first visit, which is what we do consistently in our practice with every patient, and often with extraordinary results, even after the first visit, where you have people walk in and literally walk out with an entirely new understanding, and so many stories of success. We recently, about a week ago, had a patient here in our clinic that has type 1 diabetes, just diagnosed, started about a month and a half ago. Fortunately, we're catching it very, very early, but we figured out what the conflict program was that was operating in this 9-year-old child, and within literally 24 hours after that first visit, sugars have normalized. The insulin levels, we did a C-peptide, and his insulin, his pancreas is producing insulin again, at normal levels. And, it's been absolutely extraordinary to watch. Of course, oftentimes when a disease has manifested for a long time, like type 1, and somebody has now had it for 10 years, it's much, much harder to reverse. Because we're dealing then with another conflict called the conflict of the diagnosis-prognosis, which I lay out in the book. And then, as you're familiar with this, from a conventional medical perspective, when somebody gets bad news, in medicine, when they tell they have a very bad disease, or they have a disease that has no cure, like for instance cancer, or except cancer you can cure by cutting it out or destroying it with chemo or radiation. But typically people have very dire images of some of these things. So So we then have to deal with that conflict as well, which is often 1,000 times greater than the original conflict and program for the disease itself.
Wow. You have a little blurb in the book. It hit me. I think it hits anybody that flips the pages, and especially after the news yesterday about Elizabeth Edwards passing, breast cancer. You have a byline. I want you to just take and describe what you mean by this statement. You go, cancer, a blessing or a curse? I can understand the curse side. I think the listener would love to hear you speak about how cancer can be viewed as a blessing, because that would be a tough one.
Well, here's the magic of it all. Remember that first segment that you started the program with today. Disease is the brain's best solution to keep the person alive as long as possible. Therefore, disease is a survival program. The blessing is framed right in that statement. Because Dennis, here's the thing. If you think about what happened to the mother, that was my nurse that developed breast cancer.
Yes.
When she was standing at her son's side for 14 days waiting for him to die. I mean, that's more than any human being can bear. If you think about it, just the extraordinary stress that a mother is faced with when something like that is going down. And so what the brain does is it literally saves your life in that moment, in that instant when the brain is being overwhelmed or threatened with having its brain circuitry blown out. The brain literally saves your life by downloading into a smaller part of itself and then into the body as part of that part of the brain what that part of the brain controls. So what we have to understand about every illness, including cancer, ALS, all these horrific diseases that we have come to know in our society, is that they are all temporary solutions to overwhelm that threatens the brain. So the brain then acts, spontaneously and instantly to save your life short term. And think about, a human being in primitive times. If you think about our forefathers, they had a very different life to face than we have today. 10,000 years ago or 20,000 years ago, our ancestors had to deal with a lot more wild animals and wild tribes, warring tribes, and they were always under threat, from nature, from wild animals and so forth. So they literally always had to have their wits about them. So they could not afford to be distracted for 1 second, let alone, days or weeks, like the mother standing by her son's side while he's, what she thinks as dying. Can you imagine if that was happening, playing out 10,000 years ago, that mother would not make it, because she would be, readily available meal for a wild animal, while she's completely consumed with something that is blowing out her brain circuitry. So it is literally a survival program. When you understand disease from that perspective, then you understand that short term, the cancer is actually a greater blessing. Is the best solution versus the person having their life instantly destroyed, either because the brain circuitry is blown out, or and by the way, Dennis, this happens a lot. When people are threatened with overwhelming situations, there's a disease. In lay terms, we call it what do you call it? A neurological breakdown. So, we call it. Somebody had a. What's the term again that we use? They had a neurological blowout, or a psychological blowout. So we see that happen in our society. Where people just lose it. They go nuts. They end up
Sure.
in a psychiatric hospital because they just can't handle it anymore, and their brain, for some reason, didn't do the thing that it normally does, which is to download to a smaller part and to set 99% of the brain free, so that the person can continue on. So fortunately, we have this mechanism in place that literally protects a person from having this nervous. The term I was looking for is nervous breakdown. never strike.
Sorry, I couldn't help you. I didn't know where you're going. Okay. Well, then, to then put it, to look at cancer as the blessing, which I think when somebody reads that statement, they go, what the heck? How could you ever look at this as a blessing? I think what you're saying is cancer bringing with it such an ominous result or endpoint would be the alert that would make you have to come and deal with your conflicts, where another disease, let's say hypertension or diabetes, would have such an insidious onset, it could pass you by. You don't even have to know about that thing happening to you. But when cancer comes your way, you can't ignore it. And is the blessing the fact that this is one you've got to confront, and you're going to have to go find your conflict and resolve it in order to beat this, because you can beat it, is what you're saying to me.
Yeah, that's one of the blessings. You've got numerous blessings with cancer. The first is that it saved your life in the short term. Now, medium to long term, it threatens your life. So again, that's the paradox about disease. Is one moment it saves you, and the next moment the disease itself can overwhelm you. But then secondly, as you said, when you understand things from this higher perspective, from the 5 levels of healing perspective, suddenly it spurs you on to do the work, to heal your soul, to heal your spirit, to heal your emotions. And even with chronic illnesses, you mentioned hypertension, I mentioned the type 1 diabetic that I saw, earlier a week ago, that I continue to see. With those diseases, those are not immediately life-threatening, but still, they are life-changing diseases. If you have to go on a drug, or 2 or 3, as you know, which is the slippery slope with chronic illnesses, oftentimes you're doing more destruction with the drugs themselves than the disease, started out with. And so, when you understand what the context of the program for those diseases, and you can clear them, then it is possible to reverse those illnesses, to improve them dramatically, and to change the course or the outcome totally. So there's so many different ways. In my book, I explain disease on all the different levels of the holistic paradigm. Also, things like relationships, relational health, spiritual health, emotional, mental health, all that. Because what disease does is it alerts you that there are imbalances, or that you have brokenness or abnormalities on all those levels that need to be healed. Even our belief systems, Dennis, are primary, targets here, because, our belief systems define so often our outcomes too, health-wise. That's what my book endeavors to do, is to help people shift their belief systems, understand things on a totally different level, so that they can heal a lot more readily and a lot more completely.
All right, tell you, these are such profound concepts that I tend to just hang on your bated breath on what you're going to say next. Let's do this. Give you an opportunity to take a little break. Let's take a short break. When we come back, I want to absolutely allow you to tell us how to get this book. I've got a copy in my hand, folks. You've got to get a copy of this. It is a primer. It is a how-to that you need to get a hold for yourself. So we're with Dr. Pieter DeWitt talking about recall healing. Heal thyself, transform your life, transform your health. When we come back, Pieter, please tell us how to get the book. And because you do such a great job of pointing out conflicts, I'd like to talk a bit about what you call basic illusions or false beliefs. You were just talking about a moment ago, that we all confront, and how they would tend to be standard conflicts to provoke disease when we return. Okay with you, Pieter? Okay. All right, you're with them, folks. We got some time left. Dr. Pieter DeWitt will be back in a moment. Get ready to write down how to find this book and how to get a hold of a copy. Be right back with you.
Give your friends and loved ones the gift of health with a very special gift from Fruit of the Spirit. Fruit of the Spirit combines 14 whole fruits with energizing minerals to give you great tasting, antioxidant-rich liquid nutrition with more health benefits than any other product of its kind. Take advantage of a special offer this Christmas. We will send a beautiful gift bag with a bottle of Fruit of the Spirit, portion glass, book, and brochure to each name on your shopping list for just $29. That's a bottle of Fruit of the Spirit, portion glass, book, and brochure to each name on your shopping list for just $29.
Fruit of the Spirit gift pack is a $57 value. This Christmas season is yours for just shipping and handling not included. Call 1-800-793-8714 with your shopping list, and Thrift Spirit will take care of the rest. Call now, that's 1-800-793-8714.
This is Dennis J. Courtney, MD. You become confused about how best to manage your health. It's no wonder. It seems that every time you turn on the television or radio, another expert has yet another suggestion for you to follow that seems to be reasonable enough, but no matter how dutifully you follow the instructions, it just doesn't quite produce the results that you were looking for. If this confusion sounds familiar to you, give us a call at the Center for Complementary Health, where we'll make some sense of the confusion based on a blending of traditional and alternative medicine that we've been perfecting over the last 7 years. We offer metabolic nutrition testing, immune system repair, natural hormone replacement therapy, chelation therapy, cutting-edge allergy correction, and a host of other safe and effective alternative therapies.
Dennis J. Courtney, MD, is located at 3075 Washington Road in McMurray. Phone 724-942-3002.
Hey, good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome back to AM Impact on Your Health here in this Wednesday morning version of the show. Packed full of information and new concepts today. We love being a learning center for you, and certainly with a powerful message brought to us by Dr. Pieter DeWitt called Recall Healing. The book, Heal Thyself, Transform Your Life, Transform Your Health. Peter, I don't want to go any further without allowing the listener to hear how to get a hold of this book. Tell us how they can do it, please. Are you there, Peter?
People can get the book from the various sources. I'll give you the easiest option, and that is to call my office directly, the Quantum Healing Institute in Pieter. The number for the Quantum Healing Institute is area code 903-939-2069. I'll repeat that, 903-939-2069. You can also get it through Amazon.com, so it is on Amazon. Unfortunately, on Amazon, they don't always have a lot of copies available, so they're selling them secondhand at a ridiculous price of $179 a book. So I guess what that tells me is the good news is there's a little bit of discrepancy between supply and demand. So, but you can get it either through Amazon, at the regular price of $27.99. But through our clinic, the first number that I gave everybody is available, and I'm going to make sure that my office extends a special offer to Dennis, to your listeners, for $25 a book, no shipping, so free shipping, and $3 discount on the book. So also the book can be gotten through our website at www.shophealthybody.com. And my other website is www.dewetwellness.com.
All right, there you have it, ladies and gentlemen. Get a copy of this book, any one of those 3 or 4 ways. Get it, and you'll be able to take on disease in a way you've never thought possible. We talked off air, folks, to let you know. The book is so powerful, I think, that it deserves the final chapter of this, Peter, is really how you do cure. You have 18 steps to actually curing yourself of whatever disease it is, and it deserves its own attention. You've agreed to come back with us next week, next Wednesday, to get to the final part of this wonderful book, which is the curing. So be with us next Wednesday. You'll be back with us to go over that. You have consent to do that, right, Pete?
Absolutely.
Okay. So he's coming back, and so we don't have to feel rushed. But as we get to the closing today, what caught my eye was what you referred to as basic illusions, and you define an illusion as false beliefs. You say these conflicts that really are common to all of us end up wasting energy, draining our energy, and literally can lead to the conflict that you say is the beginning of all disease. You mentioned 6 of them. I'm just going to go down through real quick. Could you please comment on whatever one? I don't want to miss mentioning them, though. You say illusion of separation, the illusion we are not enough, an illusion that we won't be loved, an illusion of suffering, an illusion of disease, and an illusion of death. These you call basic illusions or false beliefs. Could you explain the power behind these? Because we confront, every single one of us confront all of those, and how we resolve them probably determines how our mental health status will remain.
Yeah, exactly. So, let's just go through a couple of these. If you think, and this, by the way, is in a chapter called Erroneous Belief Systems, and that's in part 2 of the book, which goes into the source of illness, the roots of illness, and your pathway to wellness. And those illusions, for instance, we often think of, the illusion number 5, which is the illusion of disease. As we explained earlier in the program, disease is not what we think of it. I think it is. It literally is a solution, and it is a blessing when you look at it from the recall healing perspective. So just changing that belief alone makes a tremendous difference in dealing with the disease in a whole new way. Illusion number 6, the illusion of death. We so often, Dennis, as you know, as physicians deal with this fear and this illusion. People fear death. They fear the destruction and the demise of their physical bodies. And yet, on a quantum physical basis, even if we go beyond religion, of course, in our religious beliefs, we always, most of us believe that there's something in the hereafter, when we leave the body. But even from a quantum physical perspective, there's ample proof and ample indication that we cannot destroy life. That losing a body does not mean that we disappear, or that energy can be destroyed. So, very, very important to overcome that illusion as well, because it sets you free to live your life to the fullest. So that's explained a lot more in detail in the book. The other illusions, like the illusion of separation, again, from a quantum physical perspective, it is not possible to be separate from others, even if you are 12,000 miles away from them, because there's a connection between people that is maintained. So, we often go through that illusion. People disappear, people walk away from you, people go through divorce, they go through, disagreements. And so, very, very powerful to confront these beliefs.
All right, I'll tell you what. We've ended on a good note. It is signaling the time that we're out of here. It's so nice to hear you're going to come back. Disease is a blessing, I think, is the way we're going to leave this today. What a powerful phrase that is when you take in all the concepts in your book on how to resolve this and beat all disease. Another powerful concept. I'll be looking forward, Peter, to talking to you next Wednesday. We'll all be back. We're going to talk about the cure next, part 3 of the book, The Actual Cure, 18 steps. We'll go over them all. What do you think?
Sounds good. I'm looking forward to it.
I'm looking forward to it, too. You are also. Get the book in the meantime, folks. Until next time, which is Friday, this is Dr. Dennis Cording with Dr. Pieter DeWitt saying so long for AM Impact on Your Health.